Hey guys, I hope your week went well. Happy Friday. For the Q&A today, I'm going to address whole body cryotherapy. You all have asked me a fair number of questions about whole body cryotherapy for skin and skin health, particularly recently, so I thought I would address that today. I noticed whole body cryotherapy has gained quite a bit of popularity in the recent years, particularly where it's offered in spas, you see it, gyms. I think it's very popular amongst athletes and people who lead a very active lifestyle. It is touted to aid in muscle recovery. It is touted to be beneficial for injury recovery. But I have to be honest with you guys, when I hear cryotherapy, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh yeah, liquid nitrogen, what we use every single day. You will be hard pressed to find a dermatologist who does not have liquid nitrogen in their office. It is a procedure that we do in dermatology to treat a variety of skin lesions, specifically skin lesions that occur on the top of the skin, like warts, something called an actinic keratosis, which is a precursor skin lesion to a skin cancer. We can catch them early on and freeze them off with a little liquid nitrogen spray. Also seborrheic keratoses, skin tags. There are so many little nuisance-y type bumps that can occur on the top of your skin that are easily treated with a nice spray of cryotherapy from a cryo canister, or a little bit of application of liquid nitrogen with a Q-tip to the surface of the lesion. This works by freezing those abnormal cells, or the cells that comprise that little pesky bump, freezes them, and then the bump is allowed to thaw. And depending on the bump, we'll oftentimes apply an additional treatment of the cryotherapy to freeze again. And what this achieves is essentially the formation of ice within the cells of that bump. It allows for the formation of ice within the cells. The ice then thaws out, and in doing so, and through ice crystal formation, the outer walls of those cells then become fragile and lyse or rupture. And that little bump, the cells comprising it, are now compromised, and your immune system comes in and gets rid of all that dead leaky stuff, and the bump goes away. It is a very cost-effective treatment for many skin lesions in dermatology. But unlike whole body cryotherapy, which is what you guys are interested in, cryotherapy used in dermatology is, relies on liquid nitrogen applied solely to the lesion or lesions of concern in an individual. So it's not used to treat the entire body. Whole body cryotherapy, like I said, has gained quite a bit of popularity. It's newer, it's trendier. Some of the purported benefits include improved muscle recovery, improvement in back pain, muscle stiffness, energy, skin health, whatever that they mean by that, as well as sleep. And I have to be honest with you guys, I was attracted to consider pursuing whole body cryotherapy myself, because I know when it gets cool out that my sleep improves quite a bit. If I get overheated at night, I have trouble sleeping, but when it's cold, I sleep like a rock. And originally it was given to people with multiple sclerosis, as well as people with arthritis, to be helpful, and was thought to be helpful for those conditions. And like I said, it's popular amongst athletes. How does it work, and how is it different from what I just described to you? Whole body cryotherapy, unlike delivery of liquid nitrogen through a freezing spray, it involves standing in a chamber. And you stand in there, and your head is outside of the box, so it remains outside of the box. And the remainder of the body is then engulfed in a liquid nitrogen mist that cools the chamber to anywhere from minus 100 degrees to minus 140 degrees. And this treatment lasts anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. In terms of exercise science and sports medicine, the studies are a little bit all over the place. But a Cochrane review back in 2015 reviewed all of the available studies on post-injury recovery, and they showed that there was no effect on post-injury recovery beyond reduction in muscle soreness. And so there's basically insufficient evidence to recommend whole body cryotherapy as a treatment for anything in sports medicine, anything in rheumatology, anything in physical medicine, exercise science. But like I said, it is very popular amongst athletes, and part of part of that popularity and part of the interest in cryotherapy stems from the fact that ice packs, cold packs in athletes do help with improving muscle soreness. So it was thought, and the interest here is that whole body cryotherapy might be a better way to achieve pain relief from exercise in comparison to just using an ice pack. But in fact, all of the available studies suggest that that is not the case. Some studies do show that there is an improvement in muscle recovery or in injury recovery, and it's thought that a lot of that has to do with the fact that after an injury, your pain can limit you from being mobile, and you can become immobilized. And immobilization gets in the way of actual recovery. And there are no studies in dermatology looking at whole body cryotherapy for any skin condition. Theoretically, I think it's attractive. You might think to yourself that cooling the body would lower the production of free radicals, such as occurs after you have sun exposure, maybe even after you have a sunburn where free radical generation and damaged tissue is quite high. Perhaps cryotherapy might be helpful. So I wanted to look into this more, especially since you guys have been asking about it, in terms of, well, what are, if any potential adverse side effects from doing this? You know, I kind of thought about it clinically, and then I looked at all of the studies. And the majority of studies that have been reviewed, like in the Cochrane review that looked at all of them, the majority of studies actually showed no adverse events. However, the majority of studies did not really look long-term. So at least in the acute window, it seems like whole body cryotherapy is pretty safe. In recent years, however, there are a small number of case reports that keep popping up of adverse effects to people pursuing whole body cryotherapy. For example, very recently there was a case report of an individual who had a bad burn as a result of a malfunctioning head in the whole body cryotherapy device. So the actual head that was delivering one of the liquid nitrogen sprays was malfunctioned and burned the individual. But that's one report. I don't know how common that is. There's another case report of something called cold panniculitis on the skin. Cold panniculitis is a skin condition and we see from time to time in dermatology, most commonly in young children actually. And basically what it is damage to the adipose tissue in the skin or the fatty tissue as a result of exposure to cold. And children are more at risk for this because their adipose tissue is slightly different in constitution and more susceptible to damage from cold. Probably the classic example of cold panniculitis is in a young child on the cheek. It will be a red nodule or bump that happens after the kid's been eating a popsicle, and their little face is sensitive to the cold liquid, and it runs on their cheek, and they get this red bump. It's not a dangerous skin condition. It can be a little uncomfortable, but it's self-limited and resolves on its own. So there was a report, however, of an adult man who developed cold panniculitis. Let's see if I can't insert a photo here. Cold panniculitis on his trunk, on his chest, as a result of going into the whole body cryotherapy unit or chamber. Whole body cryotherapy is not FDA approved as a treatment for anything. Those reports of adverse effect are pretty sparse. Yeah, overall it seems to be a relatively safe, pretty few adverse effects actually reported. So whether or not you want to do it, totally up to you. I imagine it's costly. What I can tell you objectively is that there's no evidence to support using this as a treatment for anything. So go in there with an open mind, I suppose, and do realize that bad things can happen, obviously. These are the few and far between reports of those bad things that I can tell you here. It's not meant to fearmonger, it's just meant to put it out there as something that can happen. However, there are certain people who absolutely should not go into a whole body cryotherapy unit. If you have uncontrolled heart disease, if you have coronary artery disease, severe coronary artery disease, you definitely shouldn't go into whole body cryotherapy. The cardiovascular system has to compensate when there are changes in temperature, and that can put undue stress on the cardiovascular system, which is too much for somebody with pre-existing heart disease. If you have an existing lung disease as well, that would be a contraindication. If you have a condition known as Raynaud's phenomenon, is triggered by exposure to cold, going out in the cold climates, involves color changes in the fingers, and some people can result in fingertip ulcers and ulcers of the fingertips and compromise. Very, very painful, and you definitely don't want to go triggering that by getting into the whole whole body cryotherapy thing. If you have any arrhythmias, definitely wouldn't want to go in there. You also never want to go into one of these things with wet clothing or wet skin. When the skin is wet or there's damp clothing, it is more susceptible to freeze damage. So yeah, that's what I can tell you about whole body cryotherapy from a dermatologist perspective. There's obviously always the potential for something bad to go wrong. So hopefully me telling you that, you have an understanding of it. Whether or not you choose to do it, totally understand. Like I said, when it first came out, I myself was intrigued by it when it was purported to be helpful for sleep and thought about trying it. But I don't know that I necessarily will. But comment below if you've had it done. Like, did it provide you with any benefits, and if so, what? I'd be interested to know. But I hope this video answered your questions. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.